All right, Jay Cutler TV. We're in a different place this time. We're out in Columbus, Ohio. Special trip by our good friend, someone we featured last year who did what they think was the impossible and walked away with an Olympia title last year, training Shawn Rhoden. Chris, Psychofitness, thanks for coming out and joining us.
Thank you, Jay.
Out here in Columbus. You came all the way here. I said, I want to interview you. I talked about going out to Golds Gym Venice, and you said, man, I'm going to come to Columbus and interview with Jay. What's up with that?
Well, when Dave told me that you said you want to interview me, because I was in Mexico at the end of January, I was back for a week, and I was 2 weeks over in the UK, and I was pretty much done flying and pretty much done with cold weather, because you told me it was cold, but you didn't emphasize how cold it really would be. So when Dave told me that, hey, you want to interview me, I said, I'm there, without a question, because, you know, you give so much back to the bodybuilding. I mean, you say it, I mean, I got to do it. So I had to fly out. I have a few guys in the show, so I'm here.
It was very honorable, actually. You know, I don't really interview a lot of people, but, you know, you were one of the guys that we started with this whole coaches thing, and there's a lot of background that people may not know about you, and I mean, we've had our conversations. I remember when I actually, acknowledged you, I went out of my way to say hello. You were like, man, that's awesome. Jay said hello to me, and I know you trained with some of the greats back in the day with like Wheeler and these guys, and I just, I have a lot of respect for what you did. But let's talk a little bit about, I know what you did last year was so special, right?
Right.
But the back end, I mean, you were in the trenches, you were a bodybuilder, okay?
Right.
You were aspiring, you were training with some of the greats. So, people haven't really heard as much about that, but you started training really with what year with the guys when you were doing all your bodybuilding stuff?
I think Chris Cormier was the first one to actually pick me up and adopt me and bring me into Golds Gym. It had to be 95. That had to be way back in 95.
That's when I first came on the scene.
95, yeah. So, and those guys, I would train with Cormier, then I would train with Flex, and I would train with Dillette, then I would train with any interval pro that would come into Golds. I mean, I was just like this bodybuilding guy, and I was always ready to go. So that's my background, and I learned a lot from all of them. And of course, under Charles Glass as well.
And so you were doing all types of training, then obviously different physiques, right? Dillette was my neighbor actually in Orange County. We competed at the 2000 Night of Champions. He got third, and I remember leading up to that show, he'd be like, I'm going to win this thing. And I'm like thinking in my head, man, I'm training my ass off. I'm going to win this for the first time. And obviously that was towards the tail end, and he went back to Canada or whatever. But, Cormier was the guy I battled for a lot. I mean, we were at the Arnold Classic 3 times together, and he finished second to me, which was very frustrating for him. But, those guys trained super hard. People forget how hard Flex and Cormier and those guys trained back in the day. Dillette was a genetic freak. I mean, he was just like, he could touch weights and just grow. But, those days were like the heyday of Golds Gym Venice, and now you become like the guy over there in California, and you train some of the greats. I know you mentioned you were working with Hida Yamagichi, you were working with Dexter Jackson, then of course you brought Shawn Rhoden to the Mr. Olympia, you worked hand in hand with Chris Aceto. What's your experience now after that successful year? I mean, we featured you on the channel, you were kind of fresh to it. I mean, how has that really progressed for you since now winning an Olympia title, having an Olympia athlete? I mean, has it really blown your business up, and what have you kind of learned in that year?
Well, what I learned was to trust myself and trust the old school bodybuilding training. That's what I would love to say. I came up with this philosophy of training and stumbled on it. I just turned back the hands of time, and I just really went deep on those guys and really old school, late 90s, early 2000s training, T-bar rolls, bent over rolls, dumbbell press, that was the thing. Basically, what I was accustomed to when I was with you guys and training with you guys, that was what we did. And then basically, when I trained Hide, I opened up a little bit more. Then I trained Dexter, opened up a little bit more. And I got with Shawn, I made a call to Chris Aceto, and I said, "What do you want me to do? Like, what do you want me to see?" Because Chris Aceto, I read his books years before I met the guy, and I would always reference these books. And these books are light years ahead of even right now. They're still applicable to this day.
I still sell those books, by the way.
Jaycutler.com.
So when I called him, and I called like the great guru Chris Aceto, and said, "What do you want me to do with Shawn?" He says, "Beat him up." I said, what? He just beat him up.
That's truly what he said, actually, because I did have this conversation last night in the middle of the night with Chris, and he said, man, I called Psycho and I said, listen, destroy him.
Yeah.
Really?
That's it. He said he can take it. And I said, but I haven't seen that type of training since your guys' day, in my days. So I was like, you sure? Yes, he can take it. He can take it. And his body just responded to it. I mean, it just embodied the heavy training, the heavy T-bar rolls, the squatting. That's what it was. And it was like his body, and Chris would adjust the diet. So I would do this mental thing with Chris, where I would try to deplete Shawn every day, because I knew Chris got pictures every day, and then he would change the diet and change it and change it. So it was like this competition. I destroy him, Chris rebuilds him. I destroy him, Chris rebuilds him. And his body just responded to it.
And you know what's funny is I was watching social media and I saw all that action going on. And for the first time to be honest, I would like joke with Dave and I'd say, man, they train like pussies out at Golds Gym Venice. You know what I mean? So I saw this type of training. I'm like, holy shit. I said, there's something going on here. And I said, it's amazing that like this is going on, and like I was admiring like how you were training these guys, and I knew like it was different from what I had seen before.
Right. Well, you did it. It's the same thing you guys did. It wasn't nothing new. It was new because it was old. We brought it back, and that's what it was. And that's the whole thing that I started this movement, and that's why I adopted some of the young kids in the gym, and I want them to go old school, hardcore training, and that's what I wanted to do with them. And that's where I am right now, turning back hands at a time where we're just really going for it like they did in the old days.
And you have a lot of people training under you now. I know a lot of you have had a lot of help. I mean, listen, I had actually personal friends that actually reached out to train with you. And what I admired is I had a friend that wanted to train when you came up to the Olympia 2 years ago. And you actually were so busy, you were dealing with like clients or whatever else, you were just like, listen, I can't, I can't do it. And you reached back to him and you said, listen, I'm just too busy.
Right.
And that's what amazed me about it. You were getting so much recognition, and I remember people talking about this Psychofitness, and I'm like, what is this? I mean, I'm seeing the shirt, right? Psycho Asylum, right? Which now you have your own apparel, you're doing shirts and stuff like that. I think it's awesome, the movement you kind of done. But you went on this tour, okay? You went to UK and you did like this. What they label it like the
Victory Tour.
Yeah, Victory Tour. So what was that like? Because I was touring, a little earlier in the season, and I got to see the UK and this and that, and I mean, I did these seminars at some of the places that you did. So tell me a little bit about that experience. Was that your first time there, and what was how were you received by, like, there's a lot of hardcore people in the UK.
Right. Well, that's the thing about it. See, when I would train with those pros that I mentioned before, we would train together, and they say, okay, I gotta go on this tour, I gotta guest pose, and I would always stay here and train with the next pro. So I never got to experience that. I mean, one day Paul Dillette took me to New York one time, but mostly I was always based right there in Venice. So I never knew like the love that you guys received when you guys went out. I mean, it was freezing cold, and people would sit there and they were just listening to every word we would say, and did all the recognition and the accolades that I received. I mean, I'm trying not to cry, but it was amazing. It was an amazing experience. And Shawn Rhoden didn't have to take me on that tour. I'm touring with Mr. Olympia, Shawn Rhoden, the great Chris Sandow, and as a favor to me, Shawn Rhoden said, okay, we're gonna bring you along. And I thought he was joking. And I'm saying, honestly, I was paid for the opportunity to do it. I mean, it was amazing. It was amazing.
I know, it was crazy. Like, I was backstage and you were like teared up, and you were like holding that trophy, like
teared up. He was crying.
I'm like, man, are you gonna sleep with that thing tonight or what? And I can't imagine like the sweat and the tears, because we talked. You got to take me through a workout earlier, the end of last year or whatever, and then we got to talk a little bit, and it was beginning of this year, I think.
Right.
And we got to train a little bit, and you were like, man, so much blood, sweat, and tears went into this, and it really meant that much to you. And I'm like, man, like, you made it now. Like, this is kind of your thing. And, to go on the UK tour, I mean, I'm sure the fans over there, like, had a lot of questions for you and, like, what kind of training. And, do you wish sometimes, like, you documented it a little more as you were going through the motions? And what were let me ask you, what was the expectation that you were getting? Like, what did you really believe, like, we are going to do this when you did this, when you were working on this training? I mean, you're beating this guy up, you're pushing him where you were like, really, you want me to kill him that bad? And you did it. And, how was he handling it? And, like, what was your expectations when you got to the Olympia?
Well, about 6 weeks out from the Arnold last year, so he got sick. And we were on to something. Like 6 weeks out, Shawn's walking around the gym in an actual tank top. Like he never does
remember that.
And that was like, we were on to something. Yeah, and to preface the guys I said before, I've seen Flex Wheeler 6 weeks out. I've seen Cormier 6 weeks out. I've seen Paudette like 6 weeks out. And I've seen it, and I've seen it again with Shawn. Like I saw something different. I saw fullness. I saw hardness, and I know how his body transformed. I was pretty confident. The only thing that I wasn't confident that he would win the People's Champ, but would they give it to him?
Yes.
Would the judges be
always
brave
a question,
enough?
right?
Would the judges be brave enough to say, you know something, Shawn Rhoden #1?
Yeah.
That's what it was. But after the prejudging, he was so far ahead, and he actually, I remember in Golds Gym, you and Shawn were over there talking, and I was kind of hearing, and I remember you told Shawn, you said, Shawn, you have to start being Mr. Olympia now. You said you need to start acting like Mr. Olympia now. And after that conversation, something changed in Shawn, and that's what transpired on that stage at the prejudging. He exuded as Mr.
He was a lot more polished. I remember I said to you, I said, man, beat him on these posing.
Right, you did.
And Chris told me you destroyed him with the posing, like quarter turn, quarter turn,
Right.
quarter turn. And you have to practice that. I mean, you have to present yourself. Remember, every time you stand still on that stage and you relax yourself, and Shawn, sometimes he relaxed too much. He wasn't aggressive enough, but he's not a cocky guy. So I think the thing is you built that confidence through the posing, and so there was such a combination. It wasn't just the training, it was the posing and keeping him on track. And I mean, it was more dedicated than ever. And I think that's kind of like, I see that trend that you're kind of building, and obviously you worked with the talent. Is there new guys? I mean, you have a couple guys in this show, right? You have a men's physique competitor.
Yeah, I have a physique competitor, Rodrigue.
And we featured him on the channel.
Yeah, sure did, yeah. And he got turned pro his first time out, and then he turned around the next day and did the pro show and took third. So then he jumped right back in, got the invite for the Arnold, and we're here.
And how do you adjust the training with these guys? Like, how is it kind of you stick to the same principles? Because listen, we know Golds Gym Venice, like there's been adopted principles, right? You've learned, you've trained under Charles Glass, you train with these other pros. Like, how do you determine, how do you train each person, like individually?
Well, I look at his talent, I look at who he's going against, and then I basically try to scope that body to this, not just arms or back, but this whole piece that you want to aspire to be. And I look at those guys every day, and like I said before, it's a lot of posing over and over and over and over again to make those guys embody what they're doing. So that's the plan. That's the whole thing.
So you study the other athletes that they're against.
Of course. Especially these guys in the classic physique division or physique division, they're not slouches. These guys look phenomenal. I mean, the lines and then the V tapers and the cap shoulders and the roundels. I mean, you have to study these guys. If you overlook them, you're gonna miss something.
Now, Chris, let me ask you, how much this is mental when you train these guys? Like, do you notice like that? We all go through those where questionable, like, hey, what do I look like? And you know, do these guys, like, you work on the mental aspect with these guys a lot and boost their confidence in some way?
Well, it's actually psychofitness. That's what it means, and where the mind and body meet. That's what it means. I have to really get inside these guys' mind to push them to that dark place, conjure up inside of them to do this stuff. Because you can't eat the chicken and you can't do the cardio. You can't lift the weight unless you believe it. If you're training for second, you're going to end up second. You're training for third, you're going to end up third. But if you really go deep inside yourself and train for first place, you're going to achieve first place. And so that's the thing. I have to get inside those guys.
I didn't know that. You know,
that's what it means.
I mean, I know how much it's mental. I always tell everyone bodybuilding was more mental than it was physical, right? So you've transitioned now. You're training people at a different place out in LA, right? Talk a little bit about that place that you're training people and how people can still contact you that way.
Well, you can contact me on Instagram, Psychofitness-21. But what I tried to do was, we were at Golds and Golds Gym, Psychofitness, Chris Aceto, Shawn Rhoden, we brought back the Sandow. But I'm still living in that shadow of Golds Gym. So I think it's good for me to branch out and do my own thing and grow on my own. Not saying to take anything away from Golds Gym, but I want to make my own name at my own place and where the gym embodies around my principles and that type of thing. And I want to work with a lot of young kids and basically start them on the right place of hardcore training, eating clean, and getting there is the best way to achieve these physiques that we're trying to do.
And you have a lot of people. Have you noticed the influx of people that want to train with you?
Yes, I do. I got a lot of people. My schedule is really busy. I mean, I have people coming in from other countries, like Rodrigue. He actually lives in Paris. He came here to train for me. I have another guy, Jorge. He came from Mexico. He's here for 8 weeks to train with me. I have other people set up to train, and I'm going to go over to Mexico and train more people. So the schedule is constantly moving around, and I got people coming in. So I actually bought a house. I think I talked about the real estate. Following your footsteps, I bought a house near that gym just so I could house these bodybuilders. And like Ed Connors did.
Okay, hold on. You purchased a home. You told me this.
Right.
Now you told me you were designating rooms for incoming people. Explain to this a little bit. So this is like a camp kind of setup.
Exactly, because it's a controlled environment. It's like, just think if you could live with your coach. He's monitoring your diet every day. He's making sure everything's right on track, and he's keeping you right on that straight and narrow. And that's what it was back in the day. Back in the day, all of us flex core men, we always kept each other accountable. It wasn't this separatism like it is now, and people go into these caves and they come back and ready for the show. So when I bought this house, I could have bought a bigger car or this and that. I said, when these guys reach out to me, a lot of times what will break the deal is them trying to find housing here and Airbnbs and the food and stuff like that. So I said, something? Let me invest in this house. Let me get some champions in here who really want it, and then let me start turning these champions out. And that's why I invested money.
And Chris, you did a lot of this construction yourself, you told me.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I have a construction background. I still build classic cars, so basically to keep the cost down, I did most of the construction myself. And I did it all myself, and I made bodybuilding showers, where these are huge showers and big rooms and stuff like that.
So I know if I come to LA late night one night, I know who to hit up if I don't want to rent the room for a few hours, right?
Right, it's there.
So I mean, that's awesome, man. It's like you kind of bringing that old school thing back in and really doing something really positive. And I love that about what you did. And I mean, leading into this year, I mean, what's your mindset now? I mean, you're heading towards, we're now at the Arnold Classic. You've got athletes in this. The Olympia's looming, okay?
Right.
Any kind of like thoughts, like how it's changed since last year as you're leading in? I know, like, you're on and off with certain people training, but like, is there any new things on the horizon that you're kind of looking to do as you lead into now the summer and fall season?
Right. Well, I'm dropping an ebook, so I'm going to start shooting that as soon as I get back. I'm doing an ebook, and I basically want to show kind of with the angles, but more of the old school style training, and then break it down why you would implement an angle and then when you would implement an old school style training. So that's another reason why I'm with the Coach Fitness, is to I have more freedom to shoot and more
content,
room, to shoot content and like that. And so, and what else new? I'm just taking on new athletes. I mean, I want the guys that are looking to turn that corner. They look to turn that corner, and we can change some things, and we can get you guys center stage, first call out.
But what's funny is, you had a girl that was training Laura, right?
Right.
And we featured her, okay? She did a huge weight loss, and she's been an inspiration. I remember seeing her Instagram, and I was like, man, Dave, you got to get this girl on. And you kind of mentored her and kind of showed her some techniques. So she's on the female side. Is she helping? I mean, she works with the guys too, because I saw her in there training a few guys. But you're not steering away from training female competitors either.
No,
correct?
I'm not. And basically, I'm still training everybody. I'm trying to make everybody a teacher as well. So Laura Mecca, she came in under me, and we've been texting back and forth. She's a school teacher, and she always wanted to, make the commitment where she could actually work in fitness. And she's a Golds Gym sponsored athlete as well. So when she came over, I just started showing her little techniques and things like that. And then she started assisting me, and I started breaking things down. And she just took it like a sponge. So even right now, she's here in Columbus working with some of the athletes while I'm here doing this interview. So it's like, I want to give back, and I just want to put these kids on the fast track and give them all my knowledge. I don't want to filter it. I don't want to just give it all to them as much as they want. So that's my plan.
Well, listen, man, it's awesome. I'm going to ask one last question. This could turn into a little bit, but all right, we're in Columbus.
Right.
Okay, I know you're training some guys for men's physique. I want to know about I'm a bodybuilder, right? Any predictions for the men's open class? What do you think? I mean, we got some front runners in this show, but I'm not going to put you in a spot and say I want your top. I hate when everyone says give me your top 5, because it never works out that way. But tell me who or why or what reason you think that someone is going to finish in the top spot.
Okay, dangerous people. Josh, because he's fresh. He's fresh. He's been doing nothing but growing. That skin's gonna be tight, that body's gonna have a lot of pop to it, and he's very dangerous. He's very dangerous, and he's gonna be bigger and harder than before. Now, what I wanna see the symmetry as well, not just big and hard. So if he brings the whole package, very hard to beat. William Bonac, he's on the roll. Rolly Winkler, fan favorite, he commands the stage. If he can get that back in, that lower back and glutes harder, hard to beat. So those are my front runners for the show.
Okay, well, hold on. There was a video 2 weeks ago. What do you think about? You look at any of this stuff online?
Brandon Curry.
Okay.
Brandon Curry. I sat with his wife at the Olympia. He's one of my favorite bodybuilders of all time.
He didn't leave you out, Brandon.
Brandon, I'm always in his DM, sending him exercises. Think your thumbs up. And Brandon, right there. Once again, if that guy puts it all together, he's gonna make us all have some hurt feelings. So those are my top 4 for the show. And they all equally as well, but Josh, Brandon, Rolly, Bonac, those are gonna be the names called out first. And then there might be a dark horse in there, but Josh is scaring people. He's scaring me because of that fresh skin, that fresh body, all that time off. And it's not time off, all that time of growing and getting big and refining his physique is gonna be an eye-opener for people.
He does claim he's one of the harder trainers out there. We did interview him, and he did tell us that. So
right.
I'm really happy we had that opportunity to talk a little bit. And thank you for doing what you do for the business. I know a lot of people used last year as a huge inspiration. You're doing great things, and people always can get in touch with you. And we featured you first on our channel back in the day, and we're just going to always support what you do. And just thank you for taking the time and coming all the way to Columbus, man.
Yeah, thanks.
Cycle Asylum is live, right?
The asylum is in your mind. You take it wherever you go. So remember that.
For Psycho Fitness, me, Columbus, Ohio, 2019. Stay tuned. Best is yet to come.